there is a novella considered among its peers to be not only one of the best examples, but also a catalyst for over a century of horror and weird fiction. If we were to do something as empirical as, now go with me here, draw a line of inspiration, or imagine a black pyramid of influence, this story would be a contender for Grand Chief Fountainhead of the Insidious Order. That's not a real title, I just made it up. I am, of course, talking about the Algernon Blackwood short story from 1907, The Willows. Is that why we're filming next to these willows? That makes sense now. Good scouting, Charlie.
Thanks.
Obligatory reading segment. The eeriness of this lonely island, set among a million willows, swept by a hurricane and surrounded by hurrying deep waters, touched us both, I fancy. Untrodden by man, almost unknown to man, it lay there beneath the moon, remote from human influence, on the frontier of another world, an alien world, a world tenanted by willows only and the souls of willows. And we, in our rashness, had dared to invade it. On the surface, this is actually a very straightforward tale about two men canoeing down the Danube River. We had made many similar journeys together, but the Danube, more than any other river I knew, impressed us from the very beginning with its aliveness. Seems harmless enough. This is an adventure, but the text is always bursting with macabre suggestions. Sleepy at first, but later developing violent desires as it became conscious of its deep soul holding our little craft on its mighty shoulders. I actually think the geography of the story plays a big part in the horror vibe. This isn't just an isolated boat trip in North America or Scotland, for example, which could be creepy enough. This is 1900s Slovakian wilderness. That conjures up reading memories and images of Dracula or Gothic mystery, people talking in a strange tongue and being just a little bit too far away from the comfort of home. It doesn't matter if my knowledge or interpretation is accurate. It's the tactile world building and the setting of the mood that's important. And right from the beginning of this story, I found the willows unsettling. Then Blackwood starts to turn the screw. As they travel downriver, there's a palpable tension in the air, unexplained and indescribable. They see a body in the water, and we think that the horror that we've been expecting all along has finally manifested as the physical form of death. But it's just a massive otter rolling in the currents. Or is it? Another boat appears with an old man aboard. Is he signalling to us? He's crossing himself. Well, that's not very encouraging, is it? Eventually, the men camp on a little island surrounded by swamp, dark forest, and the slowly rising waters of the river. What could possibly go wrong? What happens next, without spoiling any twists or turns, is a masterclass in, I want to say, distilled, internal, minimalist paranoia. The book is narrated by one of the characters, which means most of the time is spent in his head. We're held hostage by his interpretation of events. So of course, during the night, the evil shadows are seen and the mysterious sounds are heard by the narrator and not his sleeping friend. In the morning, they find that one of their canoe oars is missing and there's no obvious sign that somebody else was here. They eye each other with caution. At this point in the story, I think Algernon Blackwood wants us to consider the possibility that this is all in the mind of the narrator. The characters are kept deliberately vague, so this nervous energy and jumpy disposition could just be the way that this guy rolls. is even nervous of the bushes, creeping with silent feet over the shifting sands, drawing imperceptibly nearer by soft, unhurried movements. The willows had come closer during the night. But had the wind moved them? Or had they moved of themselves? I recall the sound of infinite small patterings and the pressure upon the tent and upon my own heart that caused me to wake in terror. I swayed for a moment in the wind like a tree, finding it hard to keep my upright position on the sandy hillock. There was a suggestion here of personal agency, of deliberate intention, of aggressive hostility, and it terrified me into a sort of rigidity. But the screw just keeps on turning. Now the friend starts to show signs of paranoia, confirming, in his mind at least, the presence of a dark force. There's so much going on between the lines of text here. Good horror to me means a delicate balance between the victim and the perpetrator, whether that's a real person, a monster, or simply emotion. We must feel that connection. The Willows is all about that connection. Far more unsettling than an axe murderer, it's shapes in the water, vibration in the air, every strange sound, the landscape itself, and crucially, the unknown. There is nothing more powerful than a vacuum of fear for your mind to backfill and propagate. Now the narrator has a brother in arms. At least before there was a crumb of comfort that this was all in his mind. Now they're just winding each other up. All my life, I have been strangely, vividly conscious of another region. Not far removed from our own world in one sense, but wholly different in kind. We happen to have camped in a spot where their region touches ours, where the veil between has worn thin. Horrors! They are aware of our being in their neighbourhood. A sacrifice! A victim might save us by distracting them until we could get away, just as the wolves stop to devour the dogs and give the slay another start. But I see no chance of another victim now. Well, thanks for that, mate. As far as I can tell, the residual, lasting legacy of the Willows is the influence that it had on Lovecraft and cosmic horror in general. That was the element that surprised me the most. The strong suggestion that there are alien forces at play. The book even directly references the fourth dimension. Algernon Blackwood understood the power of ambiguity and the insignificance of the human experience. That's Lovecraft's whole thing, the liminal horror of a cosmic void. But The Willows is more refined. The focus is on the character's state of mind, like most cosmic horror, but the reluctance to even glimpse a tentacled entity or a fish-headed weirdo somehow gives the book more reverence. Now I'm extra excited to read more Blackwood. The Wendigo looks to be a similar setup with the two attributes that I gave significance to in The Willows, the aesthetic of the landscape and the blinkering of the antagonist flipped over. It takes place in the backcountry of Canada, and it looks like we'll be meeting this terrifying Bigfoot with antlers. We'll film that one in the woods when there's a full moon, Charlie. And beyond. What else has he written? Let me have a quick look. The Empty House. The Centaur. Centaur. The Centaur. The Dance of Death. And the kit bag. Must be an evil kit bag. Don't open that kit bag! It's evil, I tell ya. Evil!